You are listening to the Cattle Call Podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of Zentech Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The Cattle Call Podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Cattle Call Podcast. I am your host, Jim Coppinger, and with me is my co-host and business partner, the less good-looking half of Zentech Consulting, Mr. Rocco Bricsys. Say good morning, Rocco.
I am listening here.
Are you, though? You never listen to what I say. Half the time you just ignore me anyway, so I figured I could slip in and I was better looking. So today, folks, we're talking about, our topic today is moving to BricsCAD, the why and the how. And in studio with us, we have a very special guest, a revisit from Mr. Robert Green. Hey, Robert, how are you today?
Hello. I'm doing great.
Good. So for those of you who don't know, which is probably like two of you in the CAD world, Robert is the Director of Implementation over at BricsCAD. He's also a noted speaker, consultant, writer, and general expert on everything CAD-based. And he's run his own Robert Green Consulting Company for many, many years, and he's also a noted author. He's the author of Catalyst's CAD Manager's Newsletter that we all live and die by. And he's also the author of the book Expert CAD Management, The Complete Guide. So, Robert, thanks for coming back again.
You bet. Pleasure.
I'll tell you, after doing the podcast once with us and then spending a day with me out at the New York Build, I'm amazed that you were silly enough to come back. I thought better of you than that. All right. So, like I said, today we're going to be talking about BricsCAD, right? And for those of you who aren't aware of it, BricsCAD is the new big player in the U.S. CAD market, and it's making a very serious pitch to replace AutoCAD and really almost all of your Autodesk tools as your primary drafting system. So now, to be fair to all of our listeners, right, this is not a completely unbiased podcast on our part. And I promise you, it's not why we're doing it. But we, Zentech, Rocco, and I, we are BricsCAD partners, and we do sell, configure, and trade folks on it. So, we definitely have a dog in this hunt. Still, we asked Robert to be here today to talk about BricsCAD because it's actually a product that we believe really strongly in. And we think it offers, or at least I do, the first truly viable alternative to the stranglehold that Autodesk has had over the CAD industry for decades now. All right. So I'm going to start off, Robert, and I'm going to ask you a question here. So you moved from the Autodesk world where you had a stellar reputation, right? And you moved into your current position as Director of Implementation at BricsCAD. And that move really surprised a lot of people, myself included. What really brought you to the table in terms of moving to BricsCAD?
Client questions. Basically, I kept getting communications from people who read my newsletters, people that I work with in a consulting realm, asking, are there any alternatives here? Are there ways that I can save money? Is there anything that I can do to, as you said, to kind of break the stranglehold? And
wait, are you saying people aren't happy with Autodesk?
Well, I'm not going to say that. I think people are always looking for value.
Fair
right?
point.
And I'd been reviewing BricsCAD year over year for Catalyst, and had become more and more impressed with what they were doing, especially in terms of bringing over custom content, Lisp utilities, ARX, palettes, CUIs, the kind of the customization stuff that really provides a lot of value in your Autodesk environment. And as they got more and more compliant with that, I became more and more impressed with it and started to see it out there in the field. And, using a consulting business model, if people are asking you about something, you pay attention to it. So That's why I got more involved with it and, really got into expert configuration with it, as you had mentioned before.
Nice. Yeah, see, it always does pay to do what your client wants, Hey, they're a lot happier to write checks Indeed. When you're actually doing what they want you to do. Who'd have thought? So
Indeed.
All right, so it's actually kind of funny, right? So, as I've told you before, I've been a big follower of yours for years, over at Catalyst, and whenever I was at AU, I always made sure I hit your shows. But I honestly had no idea that you had become involved with BricsCAD until after Rocco and I had actually gotten on board with the program ourselves. We did a lot of same thing, right? We did a lot of study, we did a lot of comparison. I did my due diligence type stuff. Yeah, and I realized it was a really impressive product that did everything that AutoCAD did. And then seeing that you'd come to the same conclusion, that just helped me reinforce my opinion of my own personal genius, that I had a genius like you agreeing with me. So thank you for that.
You are a genius.
See, I got someone who thinks well of me, Rocco. You be quiet over there. So yeah, like I said, I think that BricsCAD is really, it's the only CAD system I think out there that really offers, there are other competitor CAD systems out there, but I really think that BricsCAD is the only one that really offers enough functionality and serious business acumen on the professional side to present a reasonable way to bust up the Autodesk monopoly of this industry. I actually find, and I think that it's a better product than AutoCAD because I think it's been actively developed over the last decade, where I think that AutoCAD itself, right, the base vanilla AutoCAD as most of us refer to it, it's kind of been allowed to stagnate. Right? They really haven't done much in developing it and advancing it because Autodesk has focused their marketing and their builds and their effort onto their higher price 3D modeling and BIM systems like Revit and Civil 3D and so on. So I really think that BricsCAD, especially on that 2D CAD side, offers a dramatic improvement over what you're going to get with AutoCAD. So Robert, in terms of day-to-day use and functionality, how does BricsCAD stack up against AutoCAD? Do you find it to be equivalent in terms of tools and features, or like I'm saying, do you think it has more to offer?
I think you have to answer that in two parts. I mean, but what people who are switching from AutoCAD and going over to BricsCAD want initially is they want something that's going to feel as much like their AutoCAD environment as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. And that's because they don't want to have a training curve or a user acclimation curve. So they tend to come in, my experience anyway, is they tend to come into BricsCAD and they don't appreciate it for everything that it can do because they're just trying to use it exactly as they used AutoCAD. We go way back and we talk about people trying to learn CAD tools and use it like a pencil. They weren't really embracing the true functionality that was there for the taking. And so I see that. But as people get into it more and they start to, they'll turn on the quad or they'll turn on the tips, or they'll start looking at some of the functions like Blockify or Copy Guided that don't exist in AutoCAD. And that's when they start seeing, hey, this is an alive, dynamic thing, that's moving forward with areas of functionality that don't really have in AutoCAD. And especially as you move up into the real-time 3D modeling with the dynamic UCSs and the push-pull editing, it feels much more like a high-end mechanical modeler.
Right.
Than it does a 2D CAD tool. So I think it's okay, though, that people judge it in terms of how easy it is to use for an AutoCAD user, because that's why you're going to make the switch. Yeah. But if you use it just exactly like AutoCAD, you're missing out on a lot of what it has to offer.
Yeah, and I think that people do exactly what you say. They start there, right? Make the transition as, it's easy. It's a lateral move for me. And then once they're in place, then they play. People always like to play and look, well, what is that? What does that do? But they don't want to learn everything new from scratch. So I think it gives them that bridge to get over from one to the other, which is really, really good. So let's bring Rocco in here in the conversation, right? So Rocco, how receptive are the people that you're talking to the idea of the improved functionality in BricsCAD, right? Or are they jumping at the opportunity to get a product, a better product, or are they hesitant to make any kind of a jump to a new system, or is it like Robert said, they're okay so long as it's a lateral move?
I'm not gonna lie. It's a challenge in the sense that Autodesk has such a strong foothold in the U.S. market. So it's a little bit hard to change the mindset, but folks are definitely opening up their eyes and their ears to what BricsCAD can offer. I hear from people just tell me this, right? The BricsCAD users that we're bringing on board now, they say, "Gosh, this is exactly like AutoCAD," and I don't even ask them the question. They just volunteer that information. But it's it's a slow but steady drumbeat of people making that migration. It's gonna take some time and continuous marketing and discussions. But people are definitely open to hearing what BricsCAD can offer, and the marketing, the proof is in the pudding, right? When they see the product in action, when they work with the demo, the 30-day trial, they're able to see it in action for themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So, from my standpoint here, what I see is, BricsCAD has, better functionality, right? It's got a minimal learning curve because its tools are native DWG based and they're nearly identical to the ones everybody knows in AutoCAD, right? And it's nearly half the price. So, logic would say, right, at least I think that, everybody would be beating down our door to make the jump, right, to BricsCAD. But there's still, like you said, there's a lot of hesitancy in making that move. So I have to think that if it's not the learning curve, right, that maybe part of the issue here is the migration process concerns people, right? The idea that it can take a lot of time and effort to move, standard folders and utilities, etc., into that BricsCAD environment. So that's right. I'm going to turn back to Robert. All right. So this is your job, right? This is your job title. All right. So can you lay out for our listeners what's really involved in that migration process, moving from AutoCAD to BricsCAD, and what are the key areas that they're going to need to address in that kind of a change?
You bet. And I would just back up and say, I think you hit the nail on the head. Usually the conversation starts financially. That's where you see how, what a great value proposition there is in the software. And then the question very quickly becomes, oh yeah, but I bet it's going to be really difficult to implement. And so it's going to take us time, if not money, to get this implemented. And actually, that's really not the case. I mean, there's almost no way that I can say it in as compelling a way as you can experience it if you just get on BricsCAD. Just download it and just get in there and fiddle around with it for 15 minutes, and you're going to see how straightforward it is, for your users to get acclimated to it. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing I always talk about is the user is going to get in there. And if you're a really good AutoCADer for years and years, you're probably driving the keyboard with your left hand. You're driving the mouse with your right hand. And
is there any other way?
Yeah, M means move and E means erase it, et cetera. That is going to operate in exactly the same manner. I mean, you literally probably would not know you were in a different CAD tool at that point. And as you move around ribbons and drop-down menus and such, everything is organized. I mean, it's not the same, but it's very, very similar, so that your muscle memory is your hand is going to go to the right places. Your fingers are going to hit the right keystrokes, and that muscle memory just makes it very straightforward to start using it. From there, the conversation usually goes into, I've invested all this money in this customization. I've got palettes, I've got my block libraries, I've got Lisp utilities, I've all those types of things. And we're going to be able to just simply read those in. You migrate the palettes straight into whatever your BricsCAD folder is. Typically, it's set up on a network, so I can migrate those over. I can bring my support directories over. I can bring plotter configurations, page setups. I can just bring all of those over. So literally, you open up a drawing in BricsCAD and you say plot, and there are the plot configurations that you've always used, mm-hmm. the exact same ones. And if that's capturing to a PDF, it works in exactly the same manner. So you don't have to abandon the customization that you've already created. And from what I see anyway, that's how people truly judge your training curve, because if I have to abandon my standards and my standards processes, that's really where the training curve is going to blow up. But if I bring all that content over and people drag and drop blocks just like they always have, and they find the ribbon elements just where they've always been, and they plot using the same configuration they always have, there is no training problem. Yeah. And that's the trick. And so what I'm always trying to do is I'm trying to work with a CAD administrator first, right, to get all that stuff set up, so that by the time the users see it, it's already set up for them. And they just go into a lunch and learn, and they just start using it. So that's always how I try to approach it.
And it's a great setup. I mean, the simple fact, like you said, all you really need to do is it's copy to your server, right? Just move it to your new location and then point your profile, and you're done. It's an incredibly so. I was amazed when I did it. I was like, wow, that took like an hour, and everything is 100% ready to go. It was really nice.
Yeah, the hardest part that I experience is that a lot of places have they've been using AutoCAD for so long that there's 50 abandoned directories of junk and blocks and different versions. Literally the cleanup can sometimes take longer than the migration.
Yeah, that's always, we see that a lot on the consulting side as well, that you spend more time getting rid of the stuff that they don't really use anymore than you do, getting the good stuff put in place. Absolutely. So,
yep.
All right. Okay. So there you have it. So I'm going to say, right, everything in BricsCAD is easier, faster, cheaper, and just better. There you go. All right. So we're going to take a quick break to hear from today's sponsor, and then we're going to be back to talk more about implementing BricsCAD with Robert Green. All right, everybody, we'll be back in a minute. You're listening to the Cattle Call podcast. All right, everybody, today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of Zentech Consultants. That's Rocco and I. Zentech Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. Zentech strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to Zentech?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentechconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentechconsultants.net, or you can even call us, 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from y'all. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Cattle Call podcast. So we have a special guest in studio today. We're talking with Robert Green of BricsCAD. And I thought that since we were talking about this specific product today, for the maths, right, that I like to do, I thought we'd look at some of the costs actually involved in doing this changeover from AutoCAD to BricsCAD Pro, okay, which is kind of the compatible version of BricsCAD with AutoCAD. So the first thing, the annual subscription price, right? It's the fee you pay every year for AutoCAD. Right now, it's $1,690 a year for every single seat. Okay, not terrible. The annual subscription, if you opt that route, for BricsCAD is $640 per seat. So that's $1,000 a year difference. That's a big price change. Okay. Now, the other thing here that I think is really impressive, the perpetual license of BricsCAD, right? And AutoCAD does not offer perpetual licenses. That's where you buy it and you upgrade and you keep it for years and you upgrade only when you feel you need to, right? Is $850, right? And you can also pay the optional $255 a year maintenance. But that's, $850 you can buy and keep that license forever. Run it for 10 years if you want, okay? Network licensing. Right, those are the pooled licenses where you buy 2 licenses and put it on 20 computers, but only 2 people can use it at a time. Okay, all right, and by the way, this is something that BricsCAD offers, and Autodesk is discontinuing that next year. They're eliminating network licenses, so it's something you can only do at Autodesk for a little bit more time. Right, so BricsCAD offers both the perpetual annual networking license for a 50% premium, meaning 50% more over that 640, right? Or excuse me, the 640 and the 850. Right? In Autodesk, they double the price of your annual subscription for that. Right? And again, it's going away next year anyway, so you're not even going to have that. So I just thought I'd do some quick savings calculations here. Right? So with a 10-person firm, if you switch to BricsCAD off of AutoCAD, right, you're going to BricsCAD Pro, right? It's going to save you $10,500 a year. Right? $10,000 right off the bat just by making the change. Now, if you go with a perpetual license, right, buying it and doing the 3-year upgrade, which is kind of the industry average when you have a perpetual license, it's usually every third model that they're doing an upgrade on. That saves you, with that small firm, $42,000. That's nothing to sneeze at, right? That's a huge amount of cash, and you get a better, faster package for your staff to work with, right? Not just that, but I want to point out that BricsCAD, it's fully developed, and what I mean by that is that it integrates CAD and BIM and even structural, civil, and mechanical design tools into one single system. So it's the only package that you need to buy versus purchasing one of the ridiculously expensive Autodesk suites, right? And the idea, to me anyway, of doing the entire project from start to finish in one DWG file, that'd be enough to sell me on the product. And it really was, right? So I think if you add in the types of savings that we just looked at, I don't understand why anybody would even hesitate about making this switch. So, Robert, where do you think the key benefits for BricsCAD lie? Is it in the pricing? Is it in the functionality? Or is it in the ease of transfer to this new system?
Yes.
There you go. Well, thank you so much for that answer. Yes, all of the above.
I will say that for most companies, the discussion starts financially. They see the savings much as you outlined, and they simply can't believe that that's true. So then they go into the functionality of the product, and they see that, yeah, the functionality is there, and forward migration path is there. And there's, some technical things about deploying the product that are simpler, which I could go into as much length there as you want. And then at some point, just the whole thing kind of collapses into this unified. Oh wow, it costs less. It has equivalent or better functionality, and I can bring all my custom stuff over to it anyway. And that's when they're hooked, and that's when they implement.
And that's what we want. We want to get them hooked. We're like drug dealers. We're CAD drug dealers. We're hooking you on things. So, all right. So one of the things I think that really fascinates me about the way that BricsCAD works, and it's the way that they handle installations and upgrades. The footprint of this system is crazy small. And upgrading from one version to another doesn't really increase the system strain in any noticeable fashion. And I think that from an IT or a CAD management standpoint, that's nothing to sneeze at, right? When you need to distribute
Correct.
or install and configure and back up all of this data across dozens, maybe even hundreds of machines, right? File size really matters a lot. It's not something to ignore. So, Robert, can you explain to everybody how the installation process for BricsCAD and its upgrades works? I mean, how do you guys keep the file sizes so small and the memory footprint so tight?
It's been completely refactored. I mean, it's BricsCAD is really a modern, totally rewritten CAD engine, as opposed to something that's just kind of been added onto. With various layers of spackle and paint and things, over the years. So it winds up right now that the currently shipping version of it is 408 megabytes.
That's insane.
For the installer.
I have images that are bigger than that.
Yeah, I mean, when you consider that the only thing that you have to manage is that, then if you push it for a BricsCAD Pro user, they get a BricsCAD Pro license code. If that's a BricsCAD BIM user, they get a BIM license code. Or if it's an Ultimate user, they get an Ultimate license code. So if you're talking about moving, up the ladder of functionality over the years, as it were, you're not having to redeploy, these 6 and 8 gigabyte product kits. And by the way, you probably have 3 or 4 of them. Mm-hmm. If you're doing CAD and BIM and mechanical. Here you maintain one 408 megabyte installer, and then the only thing you have to do to upgrade is push a different license code, which of course is a small ASCII file and is essentially nothing.
Yeah.
So if you look at the bandwidth consumption that's going across the networks, you can do a silent install or you can do an SCCM push from your network, and it's done. It's there in 2 minutes or 3 minutes as opposed to a half hour or 45 minutes.
Right. And like you said, the fact that you're not having to handle multiple packages. I mean, I think that's one of the things that really grabbed my mind is just the simple fact that 400 megabyte, it's the entire BricsCAD suite of products in one mini package. And you're just toggling it, what tools are available based on your license code. That's just so, like I said, from a CAD management standpoint, that was one of the first things that caught my imagination. I was so impressed with that. So.
Yeah, the IT guys can't believe it in my experience. They go, huh?
Yeah.
How is it that compact? But it is.
And I know we were at New York Build together, and Robert was telling people as we were talking about, he was telling the story, and I had to laugh because I was one of the guys he was talking about because I did this, that when people go and they first download the trial of BricsCAD, they download it like 4 times because they go, oh, it must have got corrupted. It must have stopped. Something went wrong. It's too small. And I was like, yeah, I did that. Yeah. I did it like 3 times before I went, I guess that's the size of the file.
That's it.
That was amazing to me. So, All right, so hey Rocco, so let me ask you this then: is this? I know we're talking here in technical stuff, right? Is this topic of any importance to folks other than CAD geeks like Robert and I? Do you find that people even think about the installation migration process when you're talking to them and about moving to BricsCAD?
It depends on who you're talking to, right? I mean, the executive is going to care about the money. That's the finance part. But the where the file sizes come into play is more with the IT folks and the end users. But generally speaking, a smoother, easier to deploy solution is going to be of interest across the board, right?
Yeah.
So
okay. Okay, yeah. See, so it's not just me. Okay, that's good. I like to know that I'm not just dwelling in my own little world here. So, yeah, fair enough. I probably am. It's a little scary in here. Once in a while, I like to reach out and know that I'm not alone. So, what? So one of the things that comes to my mind whenever I have to change to a new system, whether it's CAD or anything else, is how do I get the add-ons and customizations that I need into the new setup, right? And I have to imagine that that's a concern for everyone here as well, right? If you're going to change the BricsCAD, what happens to all the add-ons, right? Not just the built-in stuff, but the utilities, the list files, the custom scripts that we spent decades working on and building up. And I think there's worry that all the corporate effort that you put in over the years in your CAD system, can be lost, and I think that leads to some of the hesitancy. So, Robert, can you kind of walk us or talk to us about the compatibility with Lisp and script files and other tie-ins when you're moving from AutoCAD to BricsCAD? I mean, what can users keep? What do they need to be concerned about? And what are they going to have to get rid of?
What they have to get rid of is typically zero. Usually what I see is people are very dependent on their CUI files, that is their ribbon elements, their any type of pull-down menus, and their tool palettes. Mm-hmm. So the first thing that I do is migrate those across, and the good news is those are simply files or directories of files that you can point to probably on a network volume now. So the first thing we do in BricsCAD is we just set up where those support folders and palette folders are going to exist on the network. And I try to get them going in a parallel manner so that you can run your AutoCAD side by side with BricsCAD and evaluate it function per function. So we bring that across and migrate it in. And once we have that, then I go ahead and pull over the support folders, which is typically where the Lisp and the script files reside. And then I'll go ahead and set those up to auto load. AutoCAD uses a file called acad.lsp to load those, and we use one that is called onStart. The genesis of using something other than acad.lsp was there was the ACAD LSP virus that went around years and years ago.
Yeah,
so it was it was kind of useful to not use that file name for that reason. So we get that, and that comes across, and for 99% of the common Lisp stuff that I have seen, everything just works straight out of the box because you're referring to standard AutoCAD commands. So, Lisp file that refers to line or circle or whatever is going to work just exactly as you expect, whether it's a script in a menu macro or whether it's inside of a Lisp. The only thing the CAD manager kind of has to pay attention to is if you've created a bunch of custom functions or routines or whatever, we have to make sure that those are loaded. So we typically make a trip into the app load, to get a startup suite type of approach going so that everything is in fact loaded and in memory. And then it's usually just a process of just, simple testing to make sure that everything has been loaded in correctly. And then it'll work. I mean, that's almost any type of problem that I've had to debug for a customer is usually because they don't have a path set or they haven't brought files over. It's not that the file doesn't work. It's that there's been some kind of a configuration issue that's been missed. So that's why I try to work with CAD administrators as opposed to users, to get all this stuff set up in the first place. But man, I mean, it comes across. Nice. And that's really what got me interested in BricsCAD in the first place as I was evaluating it for years and years at Catalyst. every release that BricsCAD sent us over every year, I kept noticing that all this stuff was getting better. And I mean, not a little bit, but like by leaps and bounds. And pretty soon, by the time we got to V19, we're shipping V20 now, but by the time I got to V19, I was like, man, this stuff works.
Yeah.
I really don't have to have AutoCAD anymore to do this.
Yeah, when it does everything that AutoCAD does, why not, right?
That's the truth. So you're not going to lose your customization, and you are correct. That's where the blood, sweat, and tears, of labor has gone into that customization. So being able to just bring that across in a straightforward manner means you can just go right into BricsCAD and almost, really not even miss a beat.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I mean, if you got a company and they've got all of their standards and all of their custom stuff built and structured, like you said, out on the network, they're clean directories, they're good directories. You don't even really have to necessarily, if they decide to make the shift, they could even just kind of repath inside of BricsCAD and point to the existing directories, right?
Yes, absolutely. I just like to keep things separated as I can because most companies are doing some sort of parallel testing.
Yeah.
So a lot of times what I'll do is just take that stuff off onto a laptop or whatever and build myself a little fake network drive and test it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then when it comes time for the switchover, you're exactly right. And it actually even uses the same registry variables so that if you use profileless management through Lisp or like set environment or get environment function calls, all those registry keys and environment variables are the same.
That's amazing.
So yeah, so you really won't have any work to do. Yeah, it's kind of like too good to be true. People don't believe it until they actually see it.
Yeah, and that's always the case, right? People go, yeah, that sounds good, but does it really work? And it really does. Listen, if a knucklehead like me was able to do it in 10 seconds, trust me, so can you. So
it really does work. It really does.
That's amazing. All right, so Robert, so I'm going to throw this last bit at you here, right? So you're the expert here on migrating to the BricsCAD environment. So what important things was I too dumb to ask that you think our listeners should know about making this transition?
Oh, geez, I thought you asked great questions.
See, Rocco?
I think if you're living in your own little world, it's a cool, concise little world you're living in. So that's
nice.
What I think is most important is that you do these things in the proper order, and that almost always to me comes down to you have the financial discussion first, because if senior management doesn't back this, if they don't have a good financial reason to do so, they're just going to say, oh, you're a software guy and you're just playing around with new software, and that's what you software guys do. So have the financial discussion first. Get senior management at the CFO level, the engineering manager level. That people like that need to be on board with it. Then what I do is I talk to the CAD administrators. They need to get at least somewhat involved at that point, so that they do understand the migration process and they understand that this is not going to be a big threat to the user community. Then I go to influential, I call them power users, and I get them on BricsCAD and I get them convinced. Then those three party or usually two parties, the IT guys, the CAD administrators, the power users, they can all kind of sit there and say, here's how we're going to roll this out. And here's the first project we're going to work on, and here's the first people we're going to acclimate to BricsCAD, and just kind of roll it out in a chunk by chunk, piece by piece manner, so that you look back and it actually worked very smoothly. So this is the process that I try to do with any of the customers that we've done direct migration. And the biggest one I've done so far is we rolled 250 people out in 6 days.
Wow, in just 6 days.
Yeah, and that was from the time we sat down in a conference room and got the pallets finalized, and I helped the CAD administrators with a few dangling issues. Then we worked with the IT guys to do the SCCM push and get the deployment packages correct, and that was by far in that particular company's case, that was by far the longest lead time item, was the IT coordination. Right. Really had nothing to do with the CAD product. It's just getting the installer stuff built. And then it pushed. And at that point, we had done the little acclimation videos, and we'd had the little sessions with people and the lunch and learn things, and it just went out.
And everybody was able to just go to work.
That's it. So it's not just a matter of doing the right things. It's doing the right things in the right order. And that's what I would emphasize to anybody. And that's, it's my job to help people do that.
Very nice. Yeah. Under a week for a full rollout on that scale. That's amazing. I've done those in the past, and they've taken months doing some of the Autodesk products. Always an adventure. So
it can.
Yeah, it's tough.
It can, yeah.
All right, so there you have it, right? That's our summation, which is totally unbiased, right? About why you should be seriously looking at making the switch to BricsCAD. Listen, even if you guys listen, and if you aren't ready to just pull the plug and take that plunge, I think it's vital that you at least start serious consideration for this kind of a change. I suggest to my clients, right, that you can just start with a couple of seats or even just one seat of BricsCAD, right? That, like Robert was saying, you can install right alongside your existing AutoCAD, and you let your best users, your power users, start working in it. Right? Since it's fully compatible and it works in a native DWG file, you can move the same file back and forth between AutoCAD and BricsCAD without any issues or concerns, right? So, I recommend to people, pick up at least one seat, see that BricsCAD really is as easy to use as we've been saying, right? And listen, if you're not sure where to get a license, or maybe you want to get a nice free 30-day demo, you can just hit our website, or you can talk to Rocco. Rocco's lonely, and he loves to talk to people who aren't me. It's just me he doesn't like to talk to. So, and I can't say as I blame him. I'm kind of mean to Rocco, so it works out. But his wife gave me permission, so it's okay. All right. So I want to thank the always brilliant Robert Green for being here today, giving us all the info we need on BricsCAD and migrating your current standards and your tools into it. Robert, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure as always.
Hey, and again, hopefully I can keep you crazy and keep you coming back time and time again.
Just keep calling.
All right, everybody. We're going to get out of here, but we want to thank you all for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Cattle Call Podcast.